Hello everyone, my name is VoidDoctor, and welcome back to another episode on the InfinityCraft server. And today we begin today's episode in the harbor that we constructed last episode, and I'm actually quite excited to begin decorating this harbor. Completely decorating this whole marina area, maybe putting some barges down here. Maybe putting some barges down in the water that I just fell in. Oh, and I'm also feeling very festive with my nice holiday hat. But maybe putting some barges in the in the water down there. Maybe putting some more cranes, more, sort of just trade-related things. And also definitely putting another road up here, like another level of road up here with some stairs and arches leading up to it. And then having some shops on the road, sort of tourist destinations, since I think, the harbor is definitely going to be a major tourist destination. Now, I'm going to first just dump all that stuff into the water. Not pollution. There's no pollution in Minecraft, so we can just dump our trash into the ocean, or into the river. Am I right? Anyway, I think to begin today's episode, I definitely would like to begin properly decorating the quarry that I've been just constructing in the background. Oh, I guess destructing? I don't know how you'd say this, because to make this quarry look good, I've just carved away the landscape. So theoretically, I've actually destroyed the landscape to make this quarry. Anyway, it's a decorated pit in the ground, basically. All of these little areas where it starts to get larger are just areas where I found pockets of ore, and, I just made it, larger to sort of give it a bit of shape. So it works out in my favor every time I find a pocket of ore, because it also gives that hole a bit more shape. But then I also just sort of, carved out this area right here, sort of just to give, again, the quarry a bit more shape. But what I'd really like to start doing is constructing, some cranes hauling up, materials, hauling up stone and things, and then also maybe some bridges and tunnels leading out of the actual quarry, or, leading, tunnels sort of in the walls of this hole, maybe some tunnels up there, I don't know, and then also definitely some bridges and things connecting different levels of the quarry. Oh man, that could have been very bad. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna start, put together a little shulker box full of all the different wood and things that I'll need to construct the, begin decorating the quarry. So I'll construct a little shulker box of materials and begin decorating the quarry after that. I don't even know who I am anymore. I tend to be a fairly neat and organized individual, but I just grabbed whatever materials I thought would work in this build, no matter if they were in stacks or not, no matter if I even had, no matter if it was even a complete stack, and I just threw it in a shulker box. That's something I rarely ever do. If I don't have a complete stack of something, I tend to go to a crafting table and, craft a complete stack of it, because I don't want to, I don't want to have a small amount of that material. I want to have I would rather have an excess of something in a shulker box, or, in a building box, than not enough. I'd rather have more than enough than not enough. So this is definitely an alarming trend, but I'm not going to let that put me off. I'm still going to decorate this quarry. This is something that I've actually really been wanting to do for a while, which is why I'm so enthusiastic about it. I think I probably sound pretty enthusiastic about it, at least from just hearing myself. I sound very enthusiastic in my opinion. So I don't know if it's annoying or not. Tell me in the comment section. Don't hold back. Tell me if I'm annoying in the comment section. Please don't do that. Anyway, so I think it's time that I just get, building. I need to stop talking and get building. However, the building's gonna involve talking, so that's nice. So I think the first thing that I'm gonna construct is another crane, sort of just basically the ones that we have in the harbor already. Just very simple, sort of base, and then build it up. And, very standard crane design. So I'm going to construct a few cranes around the quarry, probably having them picking up stone and things, probably having them looking like they're picking up stone and things from the bottom of the quarry, and then I'll probably do a little progress update. Why did I sound so unsure if I was going to do a progress update? Of course I'm going to do a progress update. What would this video would be worthless if you didn't know what I was doing. Also, this is organized storage. Not really. Most of these are empty, but I have storage for ores, random bits that you get from the mine or from the quarry. Nothing, and nothing. This is very useless storage, I just realized. Alright, so I've gotten the first crane all built up, and it's pretty much the same design that I used in the harbor, except the, I'm pretty sure the actual, base of it's a bit shorter, and the arm, the lifting arm is a bit longer, so it makes sense, like, the placement makes sense, so it could actually reach into the actual, quarry hole. I need to get better at controlling this game. Anyway, near-death experience, very, very, very nearly avoided. Anyway, this, yeah, I'm fairly happy with how this crane design looks, so I think I'm just going to sort of copy and paste it all over the quarry, maybe put some over there, sort of acting as, like, maybe they're pulling rocks from, like, down here, potentially, sort of digging out the surrounding area around the quarry, and then definitely just filling this area with more cranes and maybe even some barrels and things. Probably not barrels, because barrels wouldn't really store rocks, but like large crates and things, and probably eventually we'll maybe add some wagons and things as well, just to add to the sort of like, big sort of almost factory, the sort of the mine aesthetic, like they're transporting rocks back to the town over there, and that's where, the town's getting all of its stone, because the stone has to come from somewhere, and even if this wasn't just for the lore, like even if this wasn't part of the lore of the town, this would still be where the stone came from in all the buildings for the town. This is where I gather the stone, because this is where I gather stone. So this is a very functional quarry as well. Alright everyone, so I finished putting in these cranes, and I have them in a few different positions. Obviously this one's like, this one's probably hauling up some cargo from, the bottom of the basin, and presumably going to turn around and probably put it in a wagon or something. This one's in the process of hauling up cargo, and this one I'm probably going to put like some sort of wagon or crate underneath it, and sort of like depositing the stone and cobblestone and andesite into the wagon to sort of just give the whole thing a bit more, depth and life to it. So I think the next thing I'm going to start constructing is like a few, wagons and things around here, and I need to figure out some designs, because right now all of my wagon designs are way too large for this area, because I'm going for a fairly player scale builds. So having, like my traveling wagon shop around here would just be way too, it wouldn't fit the scale around here. So I think I'm going to try and come up with a different design, and I'll construct more of them. And hopefully, eventually, maybe not this episode, but in the future, this place starts to feel like a whole sort of mining community. You got like actual buildings around here. It's like a whole mining town. It's sort of centered around the quarry. So I'm going to get sort of constructing these wagons and things, and then I'll see you guys on the other side. Alright, so I'm fairly happy with this wagon design. These wheels look like they might not be able to hold up multiple tons of rock, I'd assume. Like, that looks like a lot of rock. If each block is a cubic meter, then that's a lot of rock, but we're just going to ignore that. These wheels this wagon might become a not wagon, but we're just going to say that these wheels can hold that much rock, and we're also going to say that I am going to construct many more of these throughout this quarry right now. I forgot what this place was called. That's kind of embarrassing. So I've had to get quite creative with how I show that this thing's carrying a lot of stone. So when you look at it from afar, it does look like it's carrying a lot of stone, but when you look at it from, actually close up and on top of it, it's just kind of standing on top of the trapdoors, but it gets the illusion across. It looks like it's carrying a lot of stone, even though it's actually not. Also, I found a dog. I think it's just going to sit there for the rest of eternity. So, yeah. He's actually been sitting there for about a week now since I found him, so definitely not having the best of times here. Alright, folks, so I'm fairly happy with how this place has turned out. Of course, I'm not done, but I think we have other things that I'd like to get to this episode. And I just like how this place is starting to have some atmosphere, Feels like there's people, operating the cranes and, maybe pulling the wagons out of the quarry area. Probably going to have some buildings around here. Maybe not, like I suggested before, maybe not a whole town, but like just a few sort of buildings to maybe store the items that are being collected, and also definitely sort of like a place where an overseer would look over the entire quarry to make sure, like a manager, to make sure that the entire quarry is, working properly, like nothing's out of order, no one's, misbehaving or anything, sort of just an overseer, like a big watchtower or something, to sort of make sure the quarry's functioning properly. Now, in a similar vein to quarrying, the next thing I'd like to do in this episode is, well, I need to do a bit of explaining. Basically, Too Much Mustard has a gunpowder farm that I helped him construct, and in return for getting him an elytra, I'm just going to do that off camera, but in turn for getting him an elytra, he's letting me use the gunpowder farm to gather gunpowder for rockets. Now, I only need a little bit of gunpowder for rockets, but this gunpowder farm is so darn fast that I can spend like 10 minutes AFKing there, and I already have 2 stacks of gunpowder. So, I AFK'd there for about 3 hours last night, and I got so much gunpowder, I did a bit of mining experiments in the swamp and wasted most of it. However, I still have some gunpowder, and I think it's time that we get ourselves some netherite. So, and also, this gunpowder farm is how I'm getting all my rockets. I had insane stockpiles of gunpowder. I had to fill an entire shulker box of gunpowder. However, I'm starting to run low, which probably means I'm going to actually have to start paying him to use the farm, unfortunately. But, yeah, I think it's time that we finally get ourselves some netherite gear. So I'm going to craft all this all this gunpowder up into TNT, and we'll do a bit of blasting in the nether. Alright, so I've gotten all my gunpowder crafted up into TNT, got myself a flint and steel, and some rockets in case there's an emergency, and actually, I can just get netherrack when I'm in the nether. And by the way, this is the basement of Raisinmine's base. It's where I steal his where I use his nether portal, and use his enchanting table, and use his lapis. Yeah, we're gonna pretend that lapis is actually there. Anyway, I think it's time we head into the nether and do a bit of blasting. So I'm gonna dig a tunnel down to y = 15 in the nether, and I'm gonna start laying out some TNT down there. And hopefully we find a bit of ancient debris, because boy oh boy, this TNT is costing me quite a bit of gunpowder, so hopefully this wasn't a waste of gunpowder and sand. To be fair, this is just sand that I bought off of Too Much Mustard, but I don't want to have to spend more diamonds. Why am I going down here? This is Raisinmine's mine. I don't want to have to spend too many more diamonds buying sand just for netherite. So if this doesn't work, I think I'm just going to do like the bubble mining method, I'm pretty sure is what it's called, where you just grab a pickaxe and just start swinging. Just a small disclaimer, for all of these clips, I have my brightness set to bright, all my clips in the nether. I usually have it set to 33%, so this is definitely quite bright. Alright, so I've made my way down to y = 15. It's a pretty long distance down, but no matter, I can always just blast my way back up if I need to. Anyway, so I think I'm just, I don't think I'm going to do this, I am going to do this. I'm going to dig a 1x2 tunnel and put TNT every 2 blocks, or with 2 blocks in between each piece of TNT, and hopefully it creates a chain so that, by the way, I don't have a shovel currently, so that's a kind of an issue. Anyway, hopefully it creates a chain so that the TNT just blows up the next TNT. Alright, so I've dug a pretty sizable hole, and I've spaced out the TNT fairly evenly. There are some 1-block gaps, but it doesn't really matter. And now I think it's time to click on that TNT block with the flint and steel and watch this place blow. Okay, so it does chain properly. Okay, oh my. Oh my. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, that's a lot of lava. I was not prepared for that much lava. Okay then. And without netherite gear, I'm pretty much completely defenseless against lava, because diamond gear does not offer much protection compared to nether. Oh my gosh. Remember how I was just talking about not having netherite gear? Yeah, I retract that statement. Never mind. Alright, so I didn't have much luck with the rest of the TNT that I'd crafted, so I think I'm going to go spend a few hours AFKing at Too Much Mustard's gunpowder farm, and I'll do a bit more mining after that. So, yeah, I'll see you guys on the other side after I get the TNT. This is not going to be fun. I hate AFKing. It just feels like such a waste of time. Too much mustard finished the tube. It's actually so good that I have to break in. It's so secure. Oh boy. I think I should probably work on installing like emergency exits every 100 blocks or so. Alright folks, so after using 3 stacks of TNT, which is 15 stacks of gunpowder, which is nothing to sneeze at by any stretch of the imagination, I've managed to get myself 20 ancient debris, which, again, by any stretch of the imagination, is not bad at all. But when you factor in that that costed 3 stacks of TNT, it's awful. So, depending on if you factor in how much supplies I put into gathering this ancient debris, it goes from being great to being terrible returns in a matter of seconds. So I'm just gonna get this smelting in my regular furnace. I'm way too lazy to put it in the super smelter right now, so I'm just gonna put it in the regular furnace, combine it with some gold, and we will get upgrading my gear. This is 5 pieces of netherite, so I think I'm gonna do not my chestplate, because that doesn't exist. For some reason I was planning on doing my chestplate the whole time, but no, I'm probably gonna do pants, you know, my armor, and then sword and pickaxe. So that seems like a reasonable, you know, a set of equipment to upgrade, right? And yes, just to mine more red sand to craft more TNT, which I did actually have to do, I had to craft a shovel, so that's very nice. Alright, so I've gotten all of the ancient debris melted up into netherite scraps, and I'm going to craft this up in the most angering way possible. Like that. I hope that bugs you. I hope that keeps you up at night. And I think the first thing I'm obviously going to upgrade is the sword. Come on. Not 10 attack damage to 11 attack damage. You have to agree. That is a worthwhile upgrade. Next, pickaxe. Obvious. There's a silk touch pickaxe because that's the best pickaxe. And then it's the best, you know, later game pick. I'm just going to put all that in there. Helmet. Leggings. Boots. Let's go, people. We are fully dressed from head to toe in netherite armor. We have a netherite sword and a netherite pickaxe. This, my friends, is truly how you be a Minecraft elitist. I also forgot how nice it is to be dressed in full netherite armor. Even with an elytra, I feel invincible now. Alright, folks, so my main plan for this episode is to just sort of make the village feel a bit more alive. You know, because right now it just feels like a large villager sort of trading area. So my main plan, my main plan is to sort of just construct, you know, 1 or 2 buildings around here. Probably not build up any of those foundations over there, but one thing that I really would like to build now that we have like a, you know, a harbor area is to sort of build like a customs house, just something to sort of manage the flow of trade in and out of the harbor. So I think that's something that I'd like to construct this episode, and then also to sort of just add a bit more life to the village. Or I'm calling it the village, but I should just be calling it the base. To add a bit more life to the base, I'd like to add a few market stalls around the town, but using a trick that I learned from a really cool YouTuber called Skip the Tutorial, where you put a honey block at the bottom, you know, and the floor of the standard multiple honey blocks, and the villagers can't jump out of the, you know, the market stand, and then you make it, you know, so they're kind of just stuck in place, and then you make it so that they the ceiling of the market stand is low enough so that mobs can't get in, and of course it's well enough, you know, it's well enough lit up, or it's well lit up. I don't know how you'd phrase that sentence, but you know, it's lit up around the stand so that the baby zombies can't spawn, and it's pretty much mob proof, and the villager can't escape. And so it's not like the villager is just roaming around the village basically asking to get killed by a zombie, but the villager is still kind of there, you know, offering I mean, it would also be very useful just to have some villagers around the village sort of offering trades, but it's also just nice to have, you know, just some life around the village that's not all in houses. So I think I'm going to get working on a design that I can kind of replicate around the village quite a bit, and then we'll just sort of copy and paste that into the village with a little bit of variation for different professions of villagers and things like that. Alright, so I found a fairly miraculous design wherein I use honey blocks for the floor so the villager can't jump out, and apparently mob AI means that they can't jump on top of these trapdoors, which means this is pretty much an impenetrable wall, and it's thick enough so that they can't hit the villager through the, like, they can't get close enough to the villager so that they can just hit him through, like, through the wall, which did happen when I did this, basically. So, yeah, it's basically an impenetrable wall, and I don't even need a roof, and this, unfortunately, this guy is gonna have to go. Oh, yes, and this is also a prototype of the door tall. Anyway, so I think I'm just gonna work on this design a bit, probably make it smaller, maybe just a 1x1 interior, but I'm definitely a big fan of the fact that no melee mob at least, can attack the villagers when they're in here, you know, because I'm trying to make it feel, I'm not trying to make it feel like an enclosed environment. I'm trying to make it feel like a fairly open environment. So I feel like if I, you know, tried to add some sort of, you know, just big barricade around it, it wouldn't feel like a very open environment. But just having it so that I can pretty much exploit mob mechanics to trick the husks into never attacking the villager, it's pretty cool. It means I don't have to, you know, build a big ugly wall around here, and I can pretty much just have a villager sitting inside of this little, you know, I'm gonna just, and see, they just can't get in now. I mean, I don't think they'd be able to get in anyway because they can't jump over, but even the babies can't get him. So I think this is definitely going to be the basic design that we're going to use on InfinityCraft. Alright, folks, so I'm actually fairly happy with how this design came together. Maybe we could, like, put some trapdoors here, too. Yeah, it actually sort of makes it look a bit more even, to be honest. But it was basically the old design, except I put some wool in the roof to sort of, you know, differentiate the different market stalls. And for some reason, this world right now is legitimately laggy. Like, if I put down a villager, it's like it's server lag, except it's a single player world. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm fairly sure it has something to do with the sheer amount of entities in these builds. Like, there are quite a few entities in these builds. Anyway, this is definitely going to be the design I'm going to use on InfinityCraft in the base. But speaking of villagers, we all know that villages are mainly protected by iron golems. Don't ask what happened there. We all know the villages are mainly protected by iron golems, right? Well, I thought, hey, why don't the villagers themselves take up arms? Because iron golems, they're kind of useless when it comes to defending large amounts of land, since they pretty much stay in one spot for most of the time. So I decided to build, I'm pretty, oh, those are infested. Anyway, I decided to build barracks for the villagers, or prototype building a barracks for the villagers, and I'm fairly sure this is what's gonna, there were armor stands here. I had to /kill everything so the lag would go away. It didn't actually get rid of the lag, so that's why there's corpses everywhere. Anyway, I basically just built some barracks for the villagers, and it's a fairly simple design, but I'm pretty happy with how they turned out, and I think this is probably going to be something I build on this InfinityCraft server. So now I'm going to go onto the server and begin construction of the market stalls, and then we'll probably start building the barracks and a few other builds that I have been working on in the back, or that I've been, you know, planning in the background for the last couple of weeks. So let's just hop back onto the InfinityCraft server. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so I've gotten all the things that I'm going to need to construct these market stalls all put away in these shulker boxes, and I'm only going to construct 2 of them right now because I only have 2 honey blocks, and the honey blocks are what prevent the villagers from jumping around. I know that the design pretty much means that they won't be able to jump around anyway, but there is a chance that they could manage to get on top of one of the blocks or something, and that would be kind of, that could be a bit risky. So the honey blocks just prevent them from jumping around and, you know, being all sort of crazy and wild as they tend to be. So I think I'm going to try and have these in fairly populated areas and fairly sort of crowded areas of the city. I'm not going to have them like on like the outskirts right now. because that would be sort of pointless. You wouldn't want to have your market stall on the outskirts of town anyway. So in real life, so I think I'm going to put them sort of towards the center, and currently the sort of center of town in terms of just the quantity of buildings is right here. It's sort of like a dense downtown area, and I'm going to start constructing more buildings around here in the future too, so it's definitely going to be sort of more of a downtown area. Maybe not the center of like jurisdiction and government, but definitely where most of the commerce and residential living will go on. I just realized Raisemine's base needs a door. I think he's been living there without a door, which is absolutely fantastic. Anyway, so yeah, these are you guys already saw the design. They're fairly simple, and they don't take up many materials. I'm actually probably going to set this in a block, so like this, you know, just very simple design. Well, it's only got a 1 block space on the inside, but that's kind of what I want. And I brought 2 different colors, you know, 2 different types of colored wool along with just the standard white wool. And my thought was maybe the green wool could be like a Fletcher or something, because for some reason I feel like the green wool would go quite well with Fletchers. And then the yellow wool, I just see that as being a farmer. I don't know why, but it's kind of like the plains villagers have a yellow wool, and the plains are definitely very well suited for farming, as I have made a very good example of over in my farmhouse over there. So I'm definitely going to use the yellow wool for a farmer villager, but other than that, probably going to only use the green wool. Obviously not going to do an all white market stand design, because the point of the wool is to sort of draw your attention to them, you know. And the nice thing about market stands is, like, they don't go everywhere in the city. Obviously that would be pretty bland, but they're nice for filling space because they're small and they are colorful. So, and if you have a lot of them all in one area, they can become sort of a feature of the city, sort of a large attraction. They can become sort of grand bazaar in a way, and that is very pretty. So that will definitely be a feature in this city, is a large sort of grand bazaar somewhere in the city. That will be very fun to construct with all the different colors of wool. Oh boy, I'm excited for that. But otherwise, yeah, this is a fairly simple build, just something to sort of fill space in the city. And yeah, so I'm going to construct these market stands, and I'll get back to you guys after I'm done with that. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so after constructing these market stands, I just realized these are one of the perfect space fillers for a medieval city. If you are constructing a medieval city and it's just feeling a bit too spread out, or not, you know, densely packed enough, and there's just a little bit of space that you're considering filling, like right here would be another perfect spot for a market stand. Just plop down a market stand, you know, plop down a market stand or 2, because they're such a great way to just fill a little bit of space, or a lot depending on how large you build them or how many you build. And they're also a really cool way to have villagers. I'm not moving the villagers in today, but they're a very cool way to organize villagers. If you need your villagers to sort of be sort of be placed down in a very organized way, they're a very nice way to do that, because they're compact, like I already said, and they're also very colorful, and again very organized, because the villagers, only one goes in there. And I just use this design because it has a 1 block center, and I just think it looks nice in my opinion. But there's millions of designs out there. You don't have to use any wool. The entire roof could be wool. In fact, I'm probably in the future going to have some designs that are just all wool on the roof, sort of like just an awning, and not just like a wood roof with an awning in it, because those look very nice too. It's just these are a nice starter design, and this design can have villagers in it, whereas the other design where it's all wool, it's much more challenging to keep villagers in them. These, it's fairly easy to have villagers in them, because like I already said, the villagers, they can't jump out, and if the villagers could jump out, they could potentially get, you know, inside the fences, which would be terrible. That would not be good. Hold on. Like, you know, if they were able to jump, they could get here, and then zombies could attack them. It would be a whole mess. So this way they can't jump, and the zombies can't attack them, because there's a block in between them and the zombies. So it's villager safe design, I guess. It's baby proof, villager proof. You know, similar, very similar, considering that villagers most of the time act like they're children. Anyway, I think the next building I want to construct is the barracks that I test designed in my creative building testing world, just because I think it's, again, going to fill this space quite well, and this seems like a nice spot to build it, because it's not right on the main road. Right now, at least, this is kind of like the main road. It's got a lot of, nice shops on it. It might change over time as we start to expand the city, but right now this is sort of like the main road. So I think I'm going to build the barracks right here. It's sort of a convenient spot in the center of everything, and the barracks are also going to have a function for me, because they're going to store all the extra weapons and tools and armor that I have. So I'm definitely going to construct them somewhere in between my storage hall and my house, and I think this street right here is just the perfect place to construct them. So I think I'm going to start working on those, and of course, in signature VoidDoctor fashion, we're going to do it in the form of a third-person time-lapse. So let's get going with the time-lapse. Alright, folks, so I'm actually really happy with how the barracks turned out. They're quite an imposing building, sort of on the, when you're walking through here. Oh no. I don't feel like this is going to end well. Okay, she's just passing by. Anyway, I feel like when you're walking through here, they sort of tower over you, which is what I was going for. They're supposed to be a very sort of tall and prominent building. But I actually used the barracks to also store all of the most annoying items to store, except for... Oh, no, never mind. There's also sheer storage in here. I forgot about that. But I basically use them to store all of the tools and armor and weapons that I'd have. The only exception being flint and steel, because I don't really have a lot of those. Just kidding. I had 15. I just threw them all out because they're really cheap to make. Anyway, I'm just very happy with how the interior turned out in here. It's pretty simple. Probably going to do a lot more work with it in the future, but definitely right now it looks quite nice, and I'm also very happy with the views that this place gets. You get these cool little view corridors, and it gets some nice views of the storage hall, some nice views of the barn, and you get one of the best uninterrupted views of the sunset for now, because I'm planning on expanding, out that direction. So specifically these windows, the little windows down there, will probably get less views, but up here you'll probably get uninterrupted views of the sunrise, not the sunset. The sunset's over there, but the sunrise, you'll get pretty much uninterrupted views from any of the windows or the the little ledges on this building for now. Hopefully that doesn't get blocked, but it might. But I'm always gonna have buildings that have views of the sunrise and sunset. Like I have these, on the storage hall, I have these giant round windows on either side to view the sunrise and sunset, and then also 2 in the front, again, just to get some nice views. And there's also one smaller window in the back, and there's a bunch of those little windows at the top. So there's definitely a lot of windows in the builds that I build, because I don't, I like the idea of, sort of like more historically accurate, like, fence windows, but I'm not going for a super traditional medieval style around here. Well, I kind of am, but I like incorporating some modern elements like glass and things in buildings where it makes sense. Like the blacksmith, you wouldn't want to have, I don't feel like you'd want to have glass in there, because I feel like the building would be very hot, so the fences would sort of, sort of fan out, let the air sort of flow out of there, provide some airflow. And then also, I feel like the glass in here doesn't make too much sense, because I feel like these more rustic sort of farmhouse buildings should have fence windows, because glass would just be, if we're way out in the country, and glass wouldn't make a ton of sense. But in that building, it sort of makes sense since it is still in the city. Now, The final building that I'd like to work on in this episode is what... Whoa, that was very strange. Is one that I'm actually very excited about. And it's the sort of item inspection, trade inspection sort of hall where any sort of trade going in and out of the city, or at least any sort of smaller trade. I feel like larger goods would be inspected by a whole committee or like crew that would go out onto the docks and inspect them, like maybe some crates of things. But smaller goods would probably just pass through this building. Specifically, this would also be a place where, you know, taxes and things would go. So it's probably going to be, you know, it would probably be quite a large building or a larger building, and would probably be right on the dock. So that's exactly where I'm going to construct it. And I have sort of laid out a plan for this in creative mode, not, or in, you know, a creative testing world, not a full-on build, but definitely a little plan for it, sort of an idea. And the main block that I'd like to use instead of stone is actually deep slate, because I think deep slate is something that I've neglected. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering where all my cobbled deep slate went. No, I smelted it all up. But I feel like deep slate is definitely a material that I've been neglecting in this series. So I think it's time we fix that and build with quite a bit of it in this build. Because the only times I've actually used deep slate have been in this roof trim and this roof trim. So I think it's time we finally utilize some deep slate in a build and put it in this build. And I'm going to be obviously using a mix of cobbled deep slate and regular deep slate to sort of give it a bit of texture. But I don't think I'm going to do a time-lapse of this build because it's going to be extremely experimental. I don't know what sort of blocks are going to work, but I have a rough idea of the shape and the roof style that I want to use and things. So I think it's time we get building, and I'll see you guys in a progress update. Alright folks, so I'm actually really happy with how this bottom floor is coming along, or the walls of the inspection hall. It's fairly simple inside. It's just a standard T shape, except it's got these little pieces here, which makes it not exactly a T, and then got a large hearth here, and it's going to have, you know, a blazing fire in it. Very cozy inside. And I think here I'm going to have a sort of dividing wall made probably out of stone, and here would probably be firewood storage, and then there's not going to be any of those walls here, so it's going to be sort of asymmetrical from the inside, but on the outside it's going to be perfectly symmetrical, or for the most part, other than, you know, just like block placement and things, you know, texturing. But on the inside it's going to be asymmetrical, and I think that's actually pretty cool. It's, you know, it's just a cool design detail. So yeah, I'm gonna get building the roof and just the other parts of the building that aren't just the walls themselves, and mainly the interior is the part that I'm really excited about, because I don't exactly know what I'm going to put on the interior, but of course, like a blazing fire and probably an inspection desk, some chairs, definitely some candles and things, so definitely a lot of very cool details on the inside. And the outside should also look pretty cool. So yeah, let's get building. The roof specifically is going to be quite a challenge though. Alright, so I think this build looks pretty cool. Definitely contrasts with the lighter tones of the rest of the town, and I also just think the roof is pretty cool. How it sort of branches out here, how it sort of extends into a T shape right here, and I also am very proud of the interior. I've never really been good at interiors, so the fact that I'm able to create an interior that I actually think looks good is pretty cool. So very proud of this achievement. I feel like my previous interiors were pretty lacking, but this makes a nice use of space, and the crackling fire, of course, is a nice detail to sort of make the whole interior feel a bit more warm and inviting. And this little path here is all we have until I connect this to the greater road network of the town. And speaking of connecting this to the greater road network of the town, that is a task for another episode, because we are just about out of time in this episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed. My name has been VoidDoctor, and I'm out. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.